Horse for you, stick this on, and that guy holding the pink flag is your guy, okay? No one of them.
Pero has visto lo de las manifestaciones ahí en la Plaza del Pueblo. ¿Y en Madrid ha habido alguna? Joder, en Madrid se habrá liado la del mundo.
Mira, a ver, hay una más.
No hagáis.
4th century. The reason behind this arch is that the Emperor Constantine in year 312 became the owner of Augustus. The other emperor received the title of Caesar. Once this Emperor Augustus died, the Emperor Caesar became the Augustus, and then he had to look for another man to become his Emperor Caesar. There is another communication with the Emperor Titus. This is the one on top. Why not? The Emperor's sword in different places amongst the gods, next to the other gods. That's how much they love Titus. Of course, was built from inside to outside. First, they digged the hole for the arena, the well for the arena. Later, around the arena, there were built different underground spaces, barracks for the gladiators and the actors while they had to wait to come and participate inside the arena. The cages for the animals, the jails for the prisoners, and of course, this being a theater, we need the props for the stage. So there were built also the warehouses to store all of those props. They built the foundation of the Colosseum, then there were built 5 rings of columns. The first, second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth rings, these are the main rings. The main one. Each column was connected to each other using the arches. The arch was not invented by the Romans, but it was in use already in Asia 4,700 years ago. Only the Romans did a better use of the arch. Then they built the horizontal surfaces to continue to build outside the bottom. How can about it? To reinforce the construction, inside at any of these holes, there were added some iron bars, like 6 inches long, half inch thick. That iron, to avoid to stain the stone with the rustiness of the iron, this iron was protected with the lead. Here we have one of the few survivors. This is the iron bar, not that long, and well, I told you, like a half inch thick. And then the iron was protected with lead. These are iron and the lead from the late 1st century. In 443, there was the earthquake which destroyed these two walls on the side. A few years later, there was the fall of the Western Roman Empire, 476. Still, for another 80 years, the people survived a little bit better than since the middle of the 16th century. In the middle of the 16th century, on this extreme poverty, they began to recycle these metals, iron and lead. They came with a chisel and the sledgehammer to break the stone to remove those metals. And if you look carefully, you can find some other notches carved on the stone. And those are squared notches. In 896, there was another earthquake here in Rome. That earthquake left many victims, of course, destroyed many palaces. And then on the early 10th century, the people of Rome, well, they were still complaining, "What I'm going to leave?" And they decided to come and live here inside of the Colosseum. It was transformed then into a condominium building. In those squared notches, they put the tip of a wood beam, they put the other tip in the opposite column, and then they built the floors, and that's how it was transformed into this condominium building. It was used as a condominium building between the early 10th century and the early 12th century. By the middle of the 12th century, a very rich family, a very despotic family here in Rome, the Frangipane family, they were like, "I don't remember you paying a rent. I don't remember you paying a rent either. I don't remember you paying the rent, so please, well, leave the Colosseum because the Colosseum is now mine." They confiscated it, it became their private property, but, well, they enjoyed it just for 47 years. After that, they fall in disgrace, and they had to abandon the Colosseum themselves. First level decorated with the Doric style, the Jonic style of the second, the third style with the Corinthian style, and this fourth level is known as Flying Order, despite the windows. The second and the third levels were decorated with these statues taller than 10 feet, made in solid bronze. Also, this statue was made in solid bronze. This is the capital. Built an entire wooden platform, and then the gladiators, since year 84 AD, came to fight on top of this wooden platform. That wood was covered with the sand. Sand in Latin is arena. That's why the name arena. Below worked about 600 men, and they had to be ready to provide the platform with the animals, with the gladiators for the show, but also with the props, which is those should be used to build the stage. These elevators worked with the work made by these men here. These were the engines of the elevator. There were these big poles nailed to the ground. At the base, some ropes. So those men walked in one direction, making these ropes to roll around or unroll from these poles, providing the energy needed to make the elevators to go up and down. Here we have this spectacle. These were the venadues, the hunting exercises, in which the gladiators, wearing the armors, using the weapons, they had to fight with the wild animals. There was a similar event, a similar spectacle, but those were the executions. On the executions, the prisoners, they had to fight the animals, the wild animals, but unarmed and without any armor. So the animals were just one. On the next window, questions? The right side, please. Well, once again, the staircase we use it is an original staircase, but the steps are not the ramp is original. These blocks are yes. This ramp here, it's another staircase, and then at the end of the ramp there was one of those vomitorias. The third section of settings was built. Then the people came and sometimes
Så man kan tydeligt se, hvad der er originalt. Nej, præcis. Det er jo også den måde, man bevarer det på.
Det er jo ikke fordi, du sådan, nemlig hvis bare der er forskel på vedligeholdet, og så bygge elevator. Jeg tror, der er mere sådan en lille jeg synes, det er sjovt.
Here, I can explain you on this space here. This was not a restroom, but I can explain how the restroom worked by using this space here. So there was digging the channel. Above the channel, they built a bench, and it was one continuous bench with the latrine holes along the bench. Through that channel there was a stream of water running continuously. And the waste fall into the water, and then through to the sewer system, and then to the tidal river, in the case of Rome. The benches were made in marble, not because they wanted to be fancy, but because it is easier to clean the marble than cleaning the wood. There was no privacy, there was no Wi-Fi. The visits at the restrooms then lasted no longer than 3 minutes. The rich people, they used to send one of the slaves to idle the seat here for the master. Okay? Marcus, I need you to go and warm the place for me. And then the poor Marcus, he had to come and sit here waiting for the master to feel enough stimulated. Once the master was ready, Marcus, you can leave. And then Marcus left. Outside, we were the engineer. 100. Important, because here at the Palatine Hill is where everything got started. I like to go back in time to the 13th and the